When Boris Johnson declares that if Russia objects to foreign troops in Ukraine, they can bog off, he is, as ever, theatrical. But beneath the quip lies something quite serious. Johnson is articulating ideas that have circulated for months among European and American planners. His language is unvarnished, but the thought isn't new. European capitals and Washington have been quietly drafting precise plans for troop deployments, as Ursula von der Leyen herself confirmed to the Financial Times. Macron, Starmer, Merz, Meloni, Rutte, Zelensky have all been part of the discussions. This is the so-called coalition of the willing, and Johnson, no longer Prime Minister but still a fluent campaigner, is amplifying its logic for the public stage. The problem Johnson identifies is the trap of conditionality. If Europe waits for a ceasefire before putting troops in, then the ceasefire may never come, and Russia has said repeatedly that it will not stop fighting. On August the 30th, the Russian military confirmed it intends to continue offensive and missile strikes indefinitely, so Johnson argues for flipping the script. Put in European troops now, not later. Change the calculus in Moscow. In his words, flip a switch in the Kremlin's brain so that Putin realizes further expansion is too costly. But what would those troops do? Johnson is careful. He doesn't propose combat troops fighting alongside Ukrainians. Instead, he suggests trainers, logisticians, protectors of infrastructure, the sort of tripwire presence that signals commitment without direct engagement. In that sense, he's converging with existing EU policy. The European Peace Facility has already mobilized 11.1 billion euros, and more than 80,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been trained under the EU military assistance mission. In other words, foreign personnel are already involved, just not inside Ukraine yet. And this is where Johnson's call differs from the consensus. At present, training happens in Poland, Germany, and the UK. Johnson wants to move the trainers onto Ukrainian soil, make a political point. It's Ukraine, not Russia, that decides who sets foot in Kyiv or Lviv. And he argues that this visible presence would demonstrate Western resolve in a way that spreadsheets and communiques cannot. Of course, the risks are enormous. Deploying European forces into Ukraine without a ceasefire raises the possibility of direct Russian attacks. Even a non-combat contingent could be struck by missiles or drones, and because this is explicitly outside NATO, there'd be no automatic Article 5 response. It would be up to each country in the coalition to decide how to react. And the precedent of Bosnia in the 1990s, or indeed the debacle of Suez in 1956, reminds us of the dangers of fragmented command and uncertain backing. Nevertheless, there is logic in Johnson's provocation. Europe has already immobilized 210 billion euros of Russian assets, redirected extraordinary revenues to Kyiv, and promised long-term security guarantees. Macron has spoken of a reassurance force. Starmer has echoed him. Von der Leyen insists that there is a roadmap. Trump, for all his mercurial habits, has agreed to provide an American backstop of intelligence and command systems. So Johnson is not breaking new ground. He is giving a flamboyant voice to a policy current that is already gathering momentum. His trademark bluntness, just get on with it, may capture the frustration of many Ukrainians and Europeans weary of incrementalism, yet it also risks oversimplifying. As the German SWP think tank warns, a force of 5,000 is symbolic but vulnerable. A force of 150,000 might deter, but would take years to assemble and sustain. Neither is straightforward. In the end, Johnson's intervention should be read less as strategy and more as political theatre, a nudge to allies that dithering helps only Putin. He is right that security guarantees delayed until a ceasefire are probably worthless, but whether the European public, let alone their parliaments, are ready for even a limited deployment is another matter. For now, his bog off bravado crystallizes a truth. The debate has shifted from whether foreign troops might be in Ukraine to when and how. And that shift, once unthinkable, is itself a victory for Kyiv. And Johnson, opportunist though he may be, has sensed the tide and given it a characteristically noisy push.